On Capitol Hill, Trump's tariff plan is facing intense scrutiny. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer says he hopes to provide options by the end of the year to Donald Trump, Canada, and Mexico on renewing the trilateral free trade pact known here as CUSMA. Greer has just finished testimony before the Senate Finance Committee. He spoke about the challenges the U.S. claims it is facing in regards to trade with Canada.
Canada has benefited from the best trade agreement, even under the trade treatment, even under the president's trade policy since last April. The vast majority of what they're sending to us has come in preferentially. It has remained that way. It's been consistent that way. Even now, with the tailored actions we took this week, we're fighting against a ban on American liquor on shelves. We're fighting against hard caps on export of American cars. So we've never banned Canadian products. We've never done that kind of thing.
Let's get more now from Washington. And the CBC's Willie Lowery was monitoring the proceedings. Now that you've heard Greer's full testimony today, we should really address that last clip too, right, about the ban on alcohol. The ban on alcohol is in response to a trade war inflicted on Canada by Donald Trump's administration in the first place. What stood out to you, though?
Yeah, Andrew, that's a really important point to make. Not to mention, it is not a federal ban, but a province-by-province ban. These are really important distinctions. Listen, Jamieson Greer spent the bulk of his time on Capitol Hill very much on the defensive as senators, mostly Democrats, really pressed him on the administration's trade policies, including, of course, the president's decision to place tariffs on traditional economic allies, Canada very much among them. Ranking Democratic member Senator Ron Wyden accused the administration of, quote, losing the plot when it comes to placing those 50% tariffs on a host of Canadian goods this week. And he said that he is going to introduce legislation to try and limit the president's ability to dole out these tariffs. Let's take a brief listen to Wyden.
I'm able to introduce the Congressional Trade Powers Reform Act. It overhauls existing trade powers to ensure that no future presidential administration can abuse its authority on trade and thrust the country into a cost of living crisis. It would require congressional approval of any tariff proposed by the president, and it would establish an advisory committee to ensure that Congress actually is in a position to exercise its rightful oversight over tariffs and trade. It is time to restore consistency, reliability, and success in our country's trade agenda.
And just for context here, Andrew, historically, it is Congress that is in charge of enforcing tariffs. Of course, the Trump administration has challenged that notion over the last 18 months. And Jamieson Greer has very much been the architect, the person who has sifted through American trade policy, trying to find justifications for enforcing these tariffs.
And so where do things stand with CUSMA negotiations right now?
Well, that is a great question. The administration's decision not to renew CUSMA has been or was very much front and center over the course of the more than 1 hour long hearing. We know that the U.S. is currently in negotiations with Mexico. Greer said that he was going to fly down to Mexico City right after the hearing, but that negotiations are not ongoing with Canada. He did say that he was in near constant communication with colleagues in Ottawa, but that's different than being in full-fledged negotiations. Our own Katie Nicholson was on the Hill and asked Greer a series of questions, including why the U.S. decided to try and impose these 50% tariffs now. And one of the things that his response really reveals is that Canada's stubbornness, its refusal to bend to Washington's desire in these negotiations or in these talks over CUSMA is really at the heart of what the U.S. is trying to do with these latest tariffs. Let's take a brief listen to Katie's exchange with Greer.
Canada has had its retaliatory measures in place on us for at least a year. Things like dairy have been discriminatory against the United States for even longer than that. So we have been considering very tailored action to respond to those things, which we've done. So we have 3 separate actions, one for the hard cap that they've put on some of our cars, or the quotas and the system they put on our cars, the total ban they've put some of the provinces, many of the provinces, on alcohol and liquor and that kind of thing. And then of course what was the last one? The dairy, where they give the Europeans a better deal than we do. So this is something that's been in preparation for some time. We have tried for over a year to get the Canadians to eliminate these things. Again, we've given them the best treatment available in the world in the past year or so, and despite that, they've still taken these actions, so we thought it was necessary to elevate this.
And one of the things that Greer disclosed during these hearings was that he hopes to present Donald Trump with some sort of framework between Washington and Mexico and Washington and Canada by the end of the year, whether that is bilateral frameworks between each country or a trilateral framework. It's yet to be fully understood.
Willie, thank you. The CBC's Willie Lowry, live in Washington.